Hello and welcome. In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and look right into the engine room of a business. We're talking about operations management. We'll be using Chapter 23 of the Cambridge AS Level Business Textbook as our guide to really get to grips with how any company, whether it's big or small, creates value. So let's get right into it. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the absolute foundation, the value creation process. From there, we'll dig into how businesses measure and then boost that process using productivity. We'll also look at some of the pitfalls of just focusing on speed. Then, we'll tackle a huge topic for your exams, the critical difference between efficiency and effectiveness, before we wrap up with a challenge that every single modern business is facing, sustainability.
All right, first up, let's look at the engine of any business. This is the process that turns raw materials and resources into the finished goods and services that people buy. It's really the foundation of everything in operations.
Take a good look at this diagram, because honestly, it's the blueprint for everything we're about to discuss. On the left, you've got your inputs. In the middle, that's where the magic happens. That's the transformational process. And on the right, you get your outputs. This simple flow applies to literally every business on Earth, from the little coffee shop on the corner to a massive car company. So here's the most important parts. This transformation isn't just about physically making something, it's about making it more valuable than the cost of its parts. That's what we call added value, and it's the whole reason a business can make a profit and, survive. The entire goal of an operations department is to make that added value as big as possible. So, what are these inputs? Well, they're what we call the 4 factors of production. And a great little acronym to remember these for your exam is CEL. That's capital, enterprise, land, and labor. Just remember, land isn't just a field, it could be an office building. Labor is brain power, not just muscle. And capital isn't just machinery, it can be intellectual property too. So how does an operations manager actually do this? How do they create more value? Well, you can think of them as master strategists. They boost efficiency to cut waste, which lowers the cost of making each item. They are obsessed with quality, making sure customers are happy. They build flexibility into the whole system so the company can adapt when things change. And by working with marketing, a well-run operation helps build a strong brand, which convinces customers that the product is worth paying more for. Okay, so we've built our engine. The next obvious question is, how well is it running? How do we even measure its performance? And that brings us to a really crucial concept, productivity. Now listen up, because for your exam, you absolutely cannot mix these two up. Production, that's just the total number of things you made. It's a simple count. Productivity, on the other hand, is a measure of efficiency. It's a bit more clever. It asks, for every dollar, for every hour, for every person we put in, how much did we get out? Now, this table is really interesting because it shows you the real-world impact. Just look at that labor productivity row. Company A gets 500 units out of each worker, but Company B, they get 600. So even though they're all paid the same, because Company B's workers are more productive, the labor cost for every single thing they make is way lower, $3.33 versus $4.00. That's a huge difference. And this just spells it out perfectly, the direct financial benefit of being more productive. The formula couldn't be simpler. Annual pay divided by labor productivity. This direct link between how productive you are and how much each unit costs to make, that's exactly why businesses are so laser-focused on improving it. It's a straight line to getting an edge on your competitors. So if you're a manager, how do you actually do it? How do you increase productivity? Well, you basically got 4 main levers you can pull. You can invest in your people with better training. You can light a fire under them with better motivation. You can invest in better tools, new technology and automation. Or, and this one gets overlooked a lot, you can just manage the whole process better. Smarter schedules, better purchasing, that alone can unlock huge gains. But, and this is a big but, just cranking up productivity isn't some magic solution for success. It can actually create its own problems. Just making the engine run faster isn't always the right answer. See, the thing is, all these operational improvements have to make sense in the real world. I mean, what's the point of getting super productive at making a phone that nobody wants to buy? Or what happens if your workers see the company making more money and demand a pay raise that just eats up all those savings? And what if they fight you on new technology because they're scared of losing their jobs? Productivity doesn't exist in a bubble. And this leads us to one of the most important ideas in all of operations management, and a concept you 100% need to get your head around: the difference between being efficient and being effective. Think about it like this. Efficiency is all about the process. Are we making things with the least amount of waste at the lowest possible cost? It's about doing things right. But effectiveness, that's all about the outcome. Are we actually making the thing the customer wants to buy? It's about doing the right things. Let's use this classic example to really let the idea sink in. Okay, so you have a company that's gotten better than ever at making its old-fashioned bicycle. The production line is humming, costs are rock bottom, but sales are tanking and the warehouse is just filling up with bikes they can't sell. So, let's think back to our definitions. Is this business actually succeeding? Just take a second. They're definitely doing things right, but are they doing the right things? And there it is. The answer is a clear, resounding no. This business has completely mastered efficiency, but it's totally lost sight of effectiveness. For any business to survive long-term, satisfying what your customers need is so much more important than just being the cheapest producer of something nobody wants. Okay, finally, let's talk about a huge issue for any 21st century business, one that touches every part of operations: sustainability. It's just not enough anymore to be efficient and effective. This really means that businesses now have to think about a third dimension. It's not just cost and customers, it's also their impact on the environment and on society. With everyone worried about things like climate change, a business pretty much has to clean up its act to be allowed to operate. So what does this actually look like on the ground? Well, an operations manager today is constantly looking for ways to make their whole process more sustainable. They're redesigning production lines to use less energy. They're sourcing recycled materials, and they're even designing the product itself so it can be easily recycled at the end of its life. This isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's a core part of the job. And this really is the key strategic question that every modern business leader has to answer. It's not about picking just one. The real challenge, the real art, is finding that perfect balance between keeping costs low with efficiency, keeping customers happy with effectiveness, and protecting our future with sustainability. The businesses that truly succeed will be the ones that can master all three.